arrived 15 minutes early as always. The host at Belvedere Grill recognized my name right away. "Private room, second floor," he said, gesturing politely. I nodded, adjusted the navy ribbon on the gift box in my hands, and walked up the velvet carpeted stairs. My heels, patent leather, 2 inches too high for comfort, clicked steadily with every step. I had worn them because I knew Marla would be watching. The door to the private room was slightly ajar. Inside, laughter was already flowing. My father's voice rose above the rest in mid-story, warm and unbothered. My mother sat beside him, her hair done up in soft waves, a string of pearls framing her neckline. Marla stood near the center drink in hand, her signature silk wrap dress, hugging her like it was made for her, and only her. The table was long, glossy mahogany lit by low chandeliers and dressed with champagne flutes and neatly folded linen napkins. 15 place cards, 15 bodies, all seated, not one empty chair. I stepped in, the sound of my heels muffled by thick carpeting now. No one looked up until Marla spotted me. "Callista," she called too brightly, pausing mid-sip. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "You made it." I nodded, stepping forward, unsure where to go. That's when she tilted her head and gestured delicate, dismissive toward the side wall. "This table's for family only," she said, voice dipped in honey, "but we set you up just over there." I followed her gaze. A folding chair, lonely and small, sat next to a gray bus cart stacked with dirty plates and a half-filled trash bin that smelled faintly of shrimp and citrus. I didn't move at first. Someone snickered. I think it was Uncle Theo. My mother gave a tiny wave without making eye contact. I sat. Coat still on. Gift box lowered gently to the floor by my feet. No one offered me a menu. The waiter brought tap water. I stayed silent. I listened to the clinks of forks and bursts of laughter. I kept checking my watch, pretending time would make this feel smaller. It didn't. 2 hours in, the waiter returned, a slim folder in hand. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "the total tonight is 4912s. Should I charge the card used for the reservation?" I looked up at him, then at the table, and finally I smiled. Not my table. When I was 8, I taught myself how to make grilled cheese because no one remembered I hadn't eaten. Marla had just won her 3rd school-wide art contest, and we were all crowded in the kitchen admiring the framed piece on the fridge. It was good, honestly, it was beautiful, but I remember staring at the empty stove stomach, growling, thinking someone will notice soon. They didn't. My mother used to say Marla just lights up the room with a dreamy sigh, like her glow made everything around her irrelevant. And I suppose in our house it did. At school plays, she was the one in the front row, hands stretched wide, beaming through spotlights. I was backstage pinning stray bobby pins into other kids' hair and collecting forgotten costume jewelry at the end. I got straight A's, but no one ever put my report cards on the fridge. I cleaned up without being asked, folded laundry that wasn't mine, and filled in grocery lists. One time when I changed my own flat tire at 16, my father looked up from his paper and said, "That's my girl," without turning the page. It didn't feel malicious then, just the way things were. Marla needed more, so I learned to need less. And when I started shrinking to fit the background, they didn't notice. Maybe they thought I liked it there. The resentment didn't arrive all at once. It built like sediment. Missed birthdays, unread texts, holidays where I was the one cooking, cleaning, driving. One year, they forgot I was coming until I rang the doorbell. Another, they sent out a family Christmas card without me in it. I stopped asking why. By the time I left for college, 3 states away, I had already decided to survive without their attention. I built my own routines, carved out small joys, kept myself upright. But even from that distance, I kept showing up, because part of me still thought that if I was dependable enough, if I filled every gap one day, they might look back and say she mattered too. And that's how they trained me to be useful without ever needing to love me out loud. Somewhere along the way, my reliability turned into currency. It started small, filling in gaps when things slipped. Dad's insurance claim paperwork got too confusing, so I stayed on the phone for 2 hours sorting it out. Mom's rental deposit didn't clear in time, so I wired over the difference. Marla forgot her car insurance was due, and I paid it with the promise of, "I'll Venmo you later," which of course never came. No one said thank you, not once. They acted like it was expected, like I had just done what made sense. And maybe I had. I made good money, not extravagant, but stable, running a quiet little bookkeeping firm for a handful of small businesses. I had no kids, no big mortgage, no one to answer to. They figured I had room for their chaos. They figured wrong. But I didn't stop, not then. I still drove 3 hours for holidays, always with a pie or gift or something handmade. I still bought birthday presents and mailed them on time. I still RSVP'd yes to every family thing, even when I wasn't sure there'd be a seat for me. I was always just there. Present, dependable, low maintenance. And they rewarded that not with love or inclusion, but with more expectations. I became the safety net beneath their poor planning, the silent banker they never acknowledged. Once Marla jokingly referred to me as our family's CFO. Everyone laughed. I smiled too, because what else was I supposed to do? Say it hurt. There's a kind of loneliness that comes from being useful, but not cherished. From being remembered only in moments of crisis. From knowing your name is saved in their phones, not as Callista, but as a lifeline, disguised as a sibling or daughter. Still, when Mom called 2 weeks before Dad's birthday, asking in that syrupy voice if I could help out a little, I didn't hesitate. I transferred the deposit by the end of the day, emailed the restaurant directly, and even booked the town car for her, so she wouldn't have to deal with parking downtown. Because deep down, I still thought maybe this time would be different. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the call came through Mom, her name lighting up my screen just after I'd wrapped up client invoices for the week. I let it ring once, then twice before answering. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, her voice coated in that familiar sweetness she used when there was a favor trailing just behind the warmth. "We're so excited about your father's birthday. 70. Can you believe it?" I murmured something polite, already sensing where this was going. "We'd really love for you to come." She continued, then added quickly, "It's going to be something special, really." I waited. "Well, we were thinking Belvedere Grill. Your dad loves that place. You know the one. Anyway, the deposit is a little steep to hold the private room, and I told your sister you might be able to handle that. Just until we settle up." Just until. I said yes, of course. It wasn't even a hesitation anymore. I emailed the restaurant that evening and put down the $1,000 deposit. I didn't tell them I'd also scheduled the florist to deliver centerpieces, or that I had a custom frame being built for an old photo of Dad in Cape Cod the last trip before things got weird between all of us. I even arranged a private driver to pick up Mom so she wouldn't have to navigate downtown parking. "Just add it to your account," she texted me. "No, please, no thanks." Still, I kept going. I pressed and steamed my navy satin dress. I wrapped Dad's gift in thick paper with a velvet ribbon. I bought a new lipstick. Because part of me still held on to this absurd childlike hope that if I made things beautiful enough, thoughtful enough, maybe they'd see me as more than a utility. Maybe I'd sit at the table this time. Maybe they'd remember to say my name when they raised their glasses. And maybe, just maybe Marla wouldn't find a way to make me feel like an afterthought before I even took off my coat. The hostess smiled when I gave my name, then led me up the winding staircase with hushed reverence. I walked carefully, feeling every pinch of the heels I'd broken in just for tonight. The gift in my hand felt heavier than it should have, wrapped in navy paper with silver trim. It matched the dress I'd ironed twice. As we approached the private room, I could already hear them glasses clinking, laughter rising above the low hum of jazz playing in the background. The door was cracked open. I stepped through. No one looked up. My father was at the head of the table, laughing at something Marla had just said. He looked younger somehow, his cheeks warm with joy. My mother was beside him, beaming. The table was long, elegant, glowing under glass chandeliers, 15 seats, all full. Cloth napkins folded like origami name cards, neatly displayed. I scanned for mine. It wasn't there. Marla caught sight of me and lifted her glass. Callista, she called, her tone all shine, no sincerity. So glad you could make it. I smiled tightly, waiting for someone, anyone, to offer me a seat. Then Marla turned and gestured with a flick of her fingers. "This table's for family only," she said sweetly, eyes dancing. "But we set you up just over there." I followed her motion. Against the far wall next to a half-full trash bin and a steel cart stacked with used dishes sat a folding chair, a single setting. No menu, no place card. Someone snorted behind a wine glass. I didn't turn to see who. I walked to the chair, sat down without removing my coat, and lowered the gift gently to the floor. My hands settled in my lap. My throat tightened, but I willed it not to show. No one approached. No one even waved. The waiter brought me a glass of water and said nothing. The conversations went on. Toasts were raised. Marla gave a speech. My mother dabbed her eyes as Dad unwrapped a framed photo from the Cape Cod trip I was never invited to. I listened from the corner, like background noise, pretending my heart wasn't cracking quietly in my chest. They poured champagne, laughed loud and easy, raised forks like tiny flags of shared joy. I sat quietly in my corner, coat still wrapped around my shoulders, like armor, fingers pressed together in my lap. The gift remained untouched on the floor beside me. No one asked if I wanted a drink. No one offered a menu. The waiter glanced over once or twice but seemed to understand the dynamic before him and left me alone. I watched Marla raise a toast to Dad full of practiced charm. To 70 years of wisdom, she said, and the table erupted in approval. Dad smiled, eyes glinting with affection I hadn't seen in years. Not directed at me, anyway. He opened the framed Cape Cod photo with a warm laugh. I wasn't in it, of course. I hadn't been invited that year. But there it was in a place of honor, treated like a family relic. The waiter returned as dessert plates were being cleared, a slim black folder tucked under one arm. He hesitated near the table, scanning place cards, then turned and began walking toward me. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "the total for the evening is $49.12. Would you like me to run the final charge on the same card used for the reservation?" I looked up, not startled, not angry, just clear. I smiled, not with bitterness, but with something firmer. I was told this table was for family only, I said. That's not my table. The silence that followed wasn't just awkward, it was surgical. It cut through the laughter, sliced through dessert forks mid-air. Conversations stopped in their tracks. Marla blinked. My mother froze. Dad looked confused. He cleared his throat. "Come on, Callista, you already paid half, might as well cover it." I stood up slowly. The legs of the folding chair scraped sharply against the floor. "You're right," I said. "I paid. I booked the room. I gave up my weekend, and in return I got a chair by the trash." I turned and walked toward the exit. No one followed. No one spoke. The room stayed silent behind me as my heels echoed down the marble stairs. By the time I got home, my phone was already vibrating. 9:41 p.m. You embarrassed everyone. 9:45 p.m. You always make things about you. 9:52 p.m. Your father was heartbroken. You couldn't just sit and be polite. The family group chat, silent for weeks before tonight, was suddenly buzzing like a kicked hornet's nest. I didn't respond. I set the phone face down on the kitchen counter, slipped off my heels, and poured myself a glass of water I didn't drink. At 10:07, an unfamiliar number lit up the screen. I let it ring once before answering. "Emily?" a voice asked, hesitant but familiar. I paused. "Yes, it's Renee. Marla's well. Marla's ex, I guess." I leaned against the counter, caught off guard. "Hi, I hope it's okay I'm calling. I was at the dinner, sat near the end with Claire. Marla introduced me as her friend from yoga. I almost laughed. She hesitated. I wanted to tell you, I saw what happened, all of it, and I've seen it before. The way they talk to you, the way they treat you, it's cruel. I said nothing, letting the words land softly where the pain still simmered. Renee continued, "What you did? That wasn't dramatic. It was overdue." I swallowed hard. "She told people I was just paying for the dinner," I said flatly, "that I wasn't even planning to stay." "She did," Renee admitted, "said you were covering the bill so they could celebrate properly. Like you were a sponsor, not a sister." I closed my eyes, but the ache didn't come, only a strange sense of confirmation. I'm not trying to stir anything Renee said. I just thought, maybe it would help to know someone else saw it, really saw it. "Thank you," I said quietly. After we hung up, I stood alone in my kitchen, the wine I brought for the dinner, unopened beside me. And for the first time, I wasn't wondering what I had done wrong. I was wondering what I'd let them get away with for so long. I woke up early the next morning, long before the sun cut through the blinds. The house was quiet, and for once, so was my mind. I brewed coffee, sat at my desk, and opened my laptop. The subject line came easily, last night. I typed without anger, just precision. "Hi all. Since there seems to be confusion about what happened at dinner, I thought it might be helpful to clarify a few details. Attached are receipts for the following: reservation deposit $1,000, floral arrangements $350, Dad's custom framed gift $180, car service for Mom $120, all paid from my account. No one offered to reimburse me, and I never asked. I did it because I was told this dinner was about honoring Dad. But I was also told clearly and in front of everyone that I wasn't considered part of the family that night. I won't be covering the remaining 49 antiqualios. I didn't eat, I wasn't seated, I wasn't welcome. And frankly, I'm tired of paying for rooms that won't even offer me a chair. Best Callista, I read it twice. No edits, no softening. Then I BCC'd the family group list and hit send. It didn't take long. My cousin Joe replied within minutes. "Good for you. We saw it. It was cruel." Uncle Darian followed Wish. I'd had the guts to say something. "I'm sorry." Even my notoriously passive cousin Lydia chimed in. About time someone said it out loud. But from my parents, nothing. Not a single line, not even a question mark from Marla. The silence didn't hurt as much as it used to. It felt more like confirmation. I closed my laptop and looked out the window, watching the wind move the blinds gently. The email didn't change them. I knew that. But it changed something in me. And I wasn't done yet. Later that afternoon, I logged into the banking app I'd ignored for months. The account name read Family Emergency Fund, a title we'd all agreed on during one particularly chaotic Christmas 5 years ago. But what no one acknowledged was that I was the only one who ever deposited into it. Birthdays came and went. Vacations were booked. Car repairs, last-minute surgeries, just until next paycheck. Moments I covered them all from that account. No one asked how it kept refilling. They assumed, because I always did. Balance $29,874.12. I sat with it for a moment. Then I moved every cent into my personal savings. Clean. Immediate. I closed the account. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Marla. I answered on the third ring, already knowing her tone. "You can't just drain the funds," she snapped, skipping any pretense of hello. I tried to use it for my car note, and it bounced. I closed it. I said calmly, "You what I transferred the money. It's mine. Always was." "You can't, I can," I said. And I did. Silence stretched on the other end. I could hear her breathing, quick and disbelieving. "You're being vindictive." "No," I replied. "I'm being done." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain myself. I simply listed it all: the birthday I drove 6 hours for and ate alone at the kids' table, the emergency dental work I covered for Dad, the time I canceled my own weekend trip so Mom wouldn't have to reschedule her rental, the dinners, the gifts, the silence, all of it. "You treated me like a bank with a pulse," I said, "but I'm not your safety net. Not anymore." Marla didn't reply. I could hear the click of her nails tapping on something, maybe her steering wheel. "You've never talked to me like this before," she muttered. "I know," I said, "because I used to think I had to earn my place. And now I didn't." 3 Saturdays later. My apartment smelled like rosemary chicken and warm bread. The table was a mix of mismatched plates and cloth napkins I'd collected over the years, each one different, each one chosen. 6 people came, none of them related to me by blood. Ray brought wine. Eli made a playlist. Jonah showed up early to light candles. No seating chart. No whispered jokes, just conversation that didn't cut and laughter that didn't land at anyone's expense. We toasted with chipped glasses. No one gave a speech. No one needed to. That morning, a letter had arrived in my mailbox, handwritten, no return address, but the slant in the cursive was unmistakably my father's. Callista. I didn't see it. That's on me. Your sister always took up all the air in the room, and you never asked for more. You made it easy for us to ignore it. I'm sorry. If you ever want to talk, I'll listen. No excuses. Dad. I didn't cry. I didn't frame it. I folded it slowly and placed it in the drawer beside my journal. After dinner, when the dishes were rinsed and the music had faded to a hum, I opened my laptop and clicked into a blank page. At the top I wrote, "Rules for my table." I leaned back, read the list twice, then closed the screen. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about grief anymore. It was about space, how I used to beg for a sliver of it, and now I'd built my own. Not big, not loud, but mine. And in that quiet around that table, I stopped being the family's background character. I became something else entirely.